Alrighty, welcome to everyone who is just now getting in. Today's match is Div A. We have JGX against Oops. I am joined with my co-caster Bowser of EMP.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, right, I need to get the stream title changed as we wait for Team 2 to lock in their positions. Where's Daidachi to save me when I need him? Oh, I can't change the title. I don't have permissions. Alrighty, I'll have to wait for somebody else to come save us on that, but we're just waiting for Konglord to ready up, and then we can begin drop 1. Oh, somebody just left the oops side?
There's still plenty of time.
Yep.
Oops should be nearly ready at this point. They're approaching their 5-minute timer.
They have 1 minute and 17 seconds left. Cutting it dangerously close. Oops has less than a minute. And Oops got their 7th. Waiting for Kong to ready up. Oops will also be dropping 15 tons under JGX. And we're green. Sorry about the delay there, folks.
All right, so as we go into this drop here, I would expect to see some, because this is the one assault drop, so I would expect to see a generally fast comp from both of these teams, as Grim Plexus is a very large cap-centric map. We'll see as we get in here, as we finish loading.
Yep, just gotta wait for the music to start so we can pull up everybody's builds and loadouts. Alright, if you want to go over the JGX mechs, I'll go over the Oops mechs.
All right. Let's see.
Alright, we have Andy Mech in the Timberwolf with Laser Vomit by the looks of it. Sep in the Firestarter A. Dith in a Phoenix Hawk 1K. That's the variant without ECM or jump jets. Pi in the Commando. Odinger in the Executioner. Konglord in the Nightjeer. And Texan in the Bloodlust.
All right, so we have JGX in a Firestarter K, Summoner F, Nitro C, probably the set of 8, Blackliner C, Flea 17, Executioner G, and Vigo 1. So very fast deck from both of these teams. Preferring Executioners on this map, not entirely surprising. As we see, there might be a Life Fight on Theta really fast. We have the Firestarter and the Flea from JGX pushing on to Theta right now. There is a Light of Oops behind the Commando, is watching Theta, but he's not going to be able to contest it. So JGX is going to get the Theta cap for free.
Dario's moving up. I'm not sure he knows that the Commando's there. Oh, he definitely does. And he's just going for that quick shot.
Shouldn't be a big deal because the Commando actually gets drawn out and takes some free damage. Not that much because he's a Commando. As we see, Oops here is rotating 3 people in a light gank or a light pack here towards the left side of the map, towards the Kappa side of the map. And it looks like they might be pushing JGX. This is very dangerous because JGX has 5 people here ready to respond to this versus their 3. Oops has a LRM Nightgyre. And they're going to try and use this to farm the mechs in the open as they push them, presumably. This might be an interesting strat. The Executioners
Andy Mechs ran straight in.
Wow. Andy Mech and the Commando are pushed all the way in, and then the Vulcan, and then the other 2 lights for Oops with the Nitro raining down LRMs. This could get very dicey for JGX. However, Oops is very much down on the armor because their push was extremely staggered. The Vulcan down to 50%. Timberwolf 61. He's low. Lowest is Execution. Jiffy in that Executioner 50%. 46 for the Vulcan. 52 for the Timber. 49. 49. The Timber's dead.
Andy Mech goes down. Jiffy looks to be next.
Almost dead. Jiffy will die very shortly, though.
There goes Jiffy.
The Nitro, Konglord of the Nitro is having problems. He's trying to deal with a Flea who's in his backside. This could completely kill Oops' entire strat because the Nitro is unable to farm the mechs in the open. Krasnodebski does go down, but then Odinger and the Executioner does go down.
It's still a 4v4.
We have a 3-on-1 though for Oops versus JGX's Firestarter right now. If they can kill this guy really, really fast, the Vulcan or the Vigo pretty much useless in this fight with his build, which is
3 ER peeps and
3 PPCs, pretty much useless in this fight, especially against P-Cap. He's getting died very hard right now. This is actually in Oops' favor right now, I would say. However, Konglord in the Nitro does go down, but they also get the V-Goal. So it is a 3v3. However, JGX is up on health. And then Zep
Dario drops
down. Dario in that Flea there's a good chance he might clean everything up.
It's down to Diff and the Phoenix
I
Hawk.
believe Diff is lagged, and it's pretty much just the Commando and a lagged Phoenix Hawk at this point. Very, very crazy aggression from Oops. I want to say it caught JGX off guard. At least it appeared to catch them off guard.
That's Diff gone.
Diff does go down, and that'll be it, as the Commando is nearly down.
There he goes.
That is it. He goes down. That was a very strong push from Oops. The problem is they didn't account for something like a Flea tying up their Nitro. If their Nitro had not been tied up, I think they would have actually won that. But because the Nitro's tied up, you see he only got 300 damage with those Lerms. He needed to have a bigger impact, unfortunately. JGX did respond well, but it appeared as if they were surprised by the initial aggression. And
yep, let me get that scoreboard up running.
Navid with the Firestarter 484, Dari with the Flea 454, did a lot of damage to that Nitro, presumably, and then Pasha with the Summoner 404. Oops as well, Sep in the Firestarter 455. Pretty good damage spread from everybody, to be quite honest.
Jiffy getting 175 in the Executioner. I do believe he had ER peeps though, so I think he was a little heat capped there. All right, next map is, give me a moment. The next map is River City, and this is the 2-2-1-2, so they are short on one heavy mech. Let's see, let's just go over these damage again. Dario and the Flea getting not second to top damage in the entire lobby, just coming in with the 3-kill cleanup. Let's see, and then any other big noticeable numbers or noticeable carries. Andy Mech and the Timberwolf only getting 215, but that was a very strong push from him. Like, I was very shocked to see the Timberwolf be the first mech to run into that brawl.
The Timberwolf honestly committed early from the looks of this. He had maybe committed maybe like 5 seconds earlier. If he had pushed at the same time as the Executioner, not ahead of the Executioner, I think that would have turned out better. But the simple reality is they were kind of crutching in that Lerm Nitro to farm the JGX mechs in the open, but with the Flea on the Nitro, he just wasn't able to do that. Yep. I think that was the linchpin of their strat.
Yeah, that was
probably would have been much better if
they hadn't staggered.
Correct. Or no, more exactly, I mean to say, it would have been better if the Nitro was maybe like Goss or like a Quad Goss Kodiak or something else. He wouldn't have been able to farm them as they went behind the cover, but he also wouldn't have had as much trouble with the Flea. So
yep,
it's a mixed bag.
I wonder if that's going to be the theme for how this entire match set will go. Will be just Oops trying to just get very aggressive right in JGX's face and see if they can take the brawl win against a trading team. Let me pull this stream back up. I want to know what was on that Phoenix Hawk 1K. I did not have time to check that, but I don't think I've ever seen that.
It was small pulses. It was small pulses. And okay, that's probably expected because on that map, you don't need the jump jets of the Phoenix Hawk 2. You're basically getting extra firepower for free.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm not very used to seeing any Phoenix Hawk other than the 2 brought to comp. And JGX is waiting on Grolsch, and then they can lock, and JGX is locked. And green on both sides. Let's get round 2 rolling.
All right. River City is kind of a no-holds-barred map in the sense that it's a fairly large map, but there's a lot of powerful trading positions, and with potential of a fast deck, as we've seen both of these teams bring in match 1 so far. And we've seen a lot of teams bring these fast push-style decks within this tournament. Probably recent balance changes have had a lot to account for that, but we may see something very similar just because this map is, like I said, it's kind of a jack of all trades map. You can do sniping, you can kind of do pushing, either or cap control. So I have a feeling we actually may see a very similar thing again from these two teams as we get into this drop here.
I think JGX is going to try to prepare more on their end to actually receive a hard push brawl. And Oops may try to shake it up.
All right, as we look at JGX, they have an Annihilator 2A, Nightgyro D, Kodiak 3, Vapor Eagle 1, a Black Lantern, Belinarius, a Fleet 17, and a Firestarter K. And what do we have over on Oops side?
Oops side is running Konglord in the Deathstrike, Andy Mech in the Timberwolf, Odinger in the Executioner, Pi in the Commando, Texan in the Bloodlust, Sep in the Firestarter, and Dith in the Phoenix 1K. It is a very similar deck to last drop, except swapping the Nightgyro for the Mad Cat as you swap one of the heavies for an Assault.
So if we look at JGX's mechs here, they're bigger mechs, so they have a 3 small pulse Wolfpack, small pulse on everything. The Annihilator 6 Ultra 2s, and then everything else, the Kodiak, Nitro, and Vigal are AC-10s, PPCs. So they may be looking to try more of a mid-range aggro strat here, potentially pushing off of the space where we see a very the light pack from Oops pushing away Dario in that fleet. He didn't take very much damage. JGX knows what's up though. They have 4 mechs in that spaceport, and Oops is continuing to push.
Oops isn't even going to stop and grab the cap. Yeah, they're just going to keep running.
This may be extremely dangerous. We have the Phoenix Hawk down to 80%. He took a big hit there, 77%. He's almost dead.
And he's still running.
68%. These guys need to not be pushing. They don't have the team to support. They're pushing way, way, way too early. They're pressuring, but Dith Menthos in the Phoenix Hawk down 65%, almost dead. Texan does go down, but they pick Dario in the fleet. That is a massive pick, and they managed to make a trade off of that aggressive push. That was extremely powerful, but was it worth it? Because they're nearly down.
Dith is running back up to fight.
The remainder of Oops is pushing JGX, but JGX has a really good deck to receive it. There's a Laser Vomit Executioner pushing. There is a Laser Vomit Timberwolf who's extremely wrecked. Data in the Kodiak is hurting, but
Odinger self-destructs.
Timberwolf is almost going down. Commando's hurt. Phoenix Hawk is going down. This is probably going to be a slaughter, unfortunately. They got a great early pick on that flea, but it
Andy
looks
Mech
like
is dropped. Kong is coming in fresh.
Their push is stalling, but I don't think it matters. JGX is too much DPS. Dismanthus in the Phoenix Hawk does go down. Sep almost down. Commando again almost down. Sep does go down, and it is a 2 versus 6. Deathstrike just about dead. Commander just about dead. Deathstrike is going down. He does go down.
It's down to Pi and the Commando.
She wrote.
Wow.
A very overly aggressive push. A good pick on the flea, but they lost in the mech lab. JGX had 4 mechs, all with DACA, and the remainder of their deck all with small pulse. So their entire deck, in essence, was very high DPS, high pinpoint. Oops, on the other hand, took a more laser vomit approach for their bigger mechs. And we see the result of that. JGX, frankly, it was a slaughter. Unfortunately, Oops got slaughtered. They got a great pick on the flea, but
I was surprised to see Oops' 3-man Wolfpack just get DACA to the face and then just keep running in. I thought they would have turned tail.
And it looked like, from my perspective here, they pushed a little early.
Yeah.
I'd say they pushed very, very early because the big mechs, we look at the damages here. The Phoenix Hawk, only 77. Bloodlust, only 83. Timberwolf, Executioner, almost below 100 damage. The only two mechs on Oops that did over 200 damage was the Deathstrike and the Firestarter. Meanwhile, Data in the Kodiak, 743 damage. Nitro, 565. That is not what you want to see if you're Oops.
No.
Massively out-traded, like 3 to 4 to 1, almost looking at the damage ratio. Very unfortunate. It was a great try, but they lost in the mech lab, and again, just like last match, they lost on their timing, unfortunately.
Yep. Dario did get that early pick, that early caught out. He was the only one in Oops to score, I mean, not in Oops, but in JGX to score less than 200 damage. And that was a very unlucky pick from him. All right, we got to swap sides for this match. The next map is, if memory serves, it is HPG.
HPG. That'll be an interesting map.
I think if Oops runs the same strategy style, I think this is the most favorable map for them of this week.
I tend to agree. It's very easy to push, especially in HPG Conquest.
Yep. Texan needs to be moved up. There we go. Yeah. So
if we pull up the map shot of that last match, just give a little bit of a recap what went on, because it was a very fast match here. So team 2 would be the Oops side. We'll draw just a rudimentary arrow here. This was their light pack, basically 3 of their light pack pushing on to Theta. JGX had basically their 4 big mechs all the way up here. Dario in that flea pushing and then getting pushed out like this, and he gets killed somewhere around here. And then Oops' first death occurs somewhere around there too, but then Oops' big mechs basically do this and push across the bridge and some in the water, but the problem is their push was slow and their deck was outmatched. They pushed into 4 Daka mechs with Laser Vomit. Like, if you want to make that sort of I guess push like that, you need, I guess if you want to bring the Laser Vomit, I should say, you need to stay more mid-range, play more peaky tradey, not just push into Daka. That is the biggest advantage of Daka, is when you push into it, when they have to receive a push. And we saw the result. Oops is, again, looking at the damage scores, Oops got massively out-traded to a substantial degree, like 4 to 1 or 5 to 1 even. The damage ratio from JGX to Oops is very telling. And the big part of that was losing the mech lab, but again, another part was their push was again fragmented. A little bit more, I hope to see a little bit more coordination from these guys in their push, because like in that first match, a little bit more coordinated, and they caught JGX out on that first match very well.
Yep.
And it was a relatively close match, all things considered. Again, if the Nitro was maybe something a bit more reliable, a bit more consistent, that didn't get pressured by a single flea, then I think maybe it would have been different. Like a fast Daka, Daka assault in that first drop would have probably been absolutely different.
I think had the Nightgear brought Goss and it was able to just remove the flea and then go help the team, they probably could have won that match. However, Oops has been running flamers on at least 3 of their mechs every single match. The Firestarter, the Phoenix Hawk, and the Commando all had a single flamer.
That tends to be a meta that we are seeing emerge, is as Laser Vomit and as hotter builds become more the norm, as bounce changes are made to the game, we're starting to see these flamers to try and counter those Laser Vomit, counter that PPC, counter the EO larges, all that stuff. Has it been working? It's hard to say, but in theory, it's a valid strat.
Odinger's Executioner with 3 ER peeps did die to overheating. So I think
he was in the last match. He was not 3 ER PPCs. He was Laser Bomb.
Oh, my bad then.
All of their big mechs were Laser Bomb.
Okay, but yeah, so he still did die due to a self-destruction. I'm not sure that's because he lost a side torso.
Most likely because he lost his side torso.
All right, and Oops is getting their seventh pilot back in. They are going a four-man Bravo, so that leads me to believe that it is going to be a hard wall strat. Let me pull HBG up. So Oops running the map strat up. Oops running four-man Bravo. So Bravo Alpha. Yep. So they're not even putting somebody Charlie to get Epsilon. So I'm expecting just a hard brawl push through the wall and through the center again. And JGX, oh, they have an extra pilot. JEGX going Alpha Bravo as well. Oh wait, no, they have not locked yet. All right, JGX swapping out Grolsch for Dargor. I hope I'm saying that right. Then we can get it all rolling in just a few more seconds.
So HBG tends to be a very interesting map. Wall strats or mechs, at least snipers or scouts on the wall, is extremely viable. However, they have relatively limited sightlines because 3 out of the 5 caps for any given team are basically completely out of range for any wall mechs. And there's lots of places to hide, including the basement, including the ramps, the miniature buildings, whatever have you. So if a wall mech pushes too far to try and get too powerful angles, he may get poked by lots of mid range and fall apart. So generally, only really useful to put 1 or 2 mechs on the wall, if that, usually as early scouts. I anticipate both of these teams will do exactly that, and then we'll see probably, I would anticipate DACA from both of these teams, to be honest. We may see a fight in the basement. Probably not. I don't think they're going to want to brawl down in the basement. Brawling in the basement is extremely dangerous, especially if you don't have a dedicated brawl deck. But HBG is a very funny map in the way it plays because of that. Caps can be an issue in HBG. Matches can tend to be stalematy because it's very easy to like sightline one guy with all of your team, right? Have like a bunch of people peeking him into the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to keep people locked down that way. And that applies to both sides. Both sides are fairly even in that regard. A lot of places for mechs to hide. Like I said, 3 out of the 5 caps completely out of the way of any sort of range presence. We may see an aggressive open push by DACA from one of these teams. I couldn't say who would do it, but
I would bet more likely on Oops doing the push as their spawn zones are much more consolidated. JGX seems to be, oh nope, they're doing the same thing. They're going full Alpha Charlie. So either team could do it up at this point. And just waiting for Dario to lock, and then we are ready to go. And we're green.
all right. Both JGX coming in substantially heavier than Oops at 445 tons versus Oops is 420. We may see that reflected in faster mech choices, perhaps signaling a push from Oops. We'll have to see. All right, as we load in here, JGX has a Mad Cat 2B, Phoenix Hawk 2, Night Gyre, Jade Kite, Summoner F, Firestarter S, a Jenner F. That is a new one. Very good, but a new one for sure. And then an Executioner D.
And
then
Oops is running the Vulcan Bloodlust, Linebacker H. That's the one with the CT Energy and Jump Jet. Firestarter A, Commando 1D, Nightgear D, Executioner Chirby, and Warhawk.
So immediately we see Oops is making a 4-man push alongside the left side of the wall. They're repeating this strat where they're faster elements. Oh, they appear to have an AFK mech in the spawn. That's not good. They have an AFK
Pi in the
commando. In the spawn. I'm surprised they did not call any sort of hold or redrop on that one.
That is surprising. Yeah, it's still within the first minute.
Pushing a 4 versus 7. JGX barely out of their spawn at this point.
JGX is just backing up against the wall.
They're heavily pushing the Firestarter, Dario and the Firestarter, but it's going to be a repeat where they have the Phoenix Hawk and the Jenner shooting down on them, and they're basically just taking free damage. They're not really doing a whole lot in return. The Commando still AFK in their spawn. Their heavier elements still pushing out. They seem to be wanting to do this really fast push strat, but if your whole team isn't pushing, then you're kind of just throwing yourselves away. And that's what's happening. Texan down to 62%, Zep 76%, even Diff in the linebackers down to 80%. Meanwhile, look at JGX percents. The Firestarter, 72%, but he's still fresh looking at the numbers. And Oops is kind of pinned outside the gate here. They kind of just walked up against them. Maybe they're buying time for their heavier assets. Pi and that Commando is still AFK. Very unfortunate.
Texan down to 50%.
Climb up on the wall. Yeah, Texan very nearly dead. The Executioner making the cross. The Summoner's going to make the cross. Mad Cat and Nightshade soon to make the cross.
And now it's
not a whole lot happening right now. The heavier elements of Oops have finally pushed up, but they're kind of taking a disadvantageous trade at this point because, as I mentioned, JGX is kind of balled up on the wall, right? So they kind of have everybody locking down the traders on Oops, and we see that with the percentages. Everyone on Oops is just hemorrhaging health. Look at JGX. They've lost some health, but not nearly as much looking at the numbers. A very fragmented push for Oops. The Commando in Pi 14K finally is back. Is it too little, too late?
Diff and Sep are just trapped beneath the wall, unable to do anything as they're just fired down by both the Kraz and the Jenner and Naveed and the Phoenix Hawk. And these two guys are pinned, as I'm not sure if Oops on the top is winning their trades or not. You have...
GGX has stronger trade elements. Like, that linebacker is supposed to be a push element. That's a heavy mech taken out. And JGX is 4 traders. So, in essence, Oops is trading 3 versus 4. And JGX's PPCs, AC5s on 2 of their mechs. And then the other 2, Executioner and Summoner, are 3 PPCs. So, they basically have 4 PPC mechs.
Andy Mech dropped to trade from the basement. That's a very strange play to see. Yeah, Oops trading mechs are the Executioner, the Warhawk, and Andy Mech and the Nightgear, but the Nightgear's in the basement. He can't do much trading, and Sep tries to flee the Firestarter and gets hammered down to 41%.
Unfortunate. Yeah, the Warhawk and Executioner are both laser vomit, large pulse focused. And the Nightgear is also large pulse medium. So Oops, again with the laser vomit, getting out traded. Not only are they trading 3 to 4, but they're trading at long range.
Texan is the first to go.
PPCs, basically, and then Texan does go down in percentages. It's extremely grim. Neither team is focusing on caps because, frankly, neither team has to. The Commandos kind of...
Commandos just...
Firestarter. The Firestarter is going back to Gamma, but what he does not realize is...
Kraz is running him down.
Correct. And with that health advantage, Firestarter 49, Jenner 59. I mean, they're both hurt, but the Firestarter more so. There may be a little light skirmish here.
I think Oops is just trying to down. I think Oops is trying to buy time for the cap lead, but with that sliver cap
comes pushing around.
It's too late though. Kraz already turned it yellow, but Sep has the flamer.
Sep has the flamer, that's right, and he's caught Kraz's Jenner in close range, but he backs away. He needs to keep pushing. Oh, but JGX has a Nitro pushing up in support. This might be suicide for Sep. He needs to pull back. Hopefully, he saw that Nitro. He needs to retreat fast, and he needs to retreat now. JGX has the Nitro in Overwatch. The downside of Oops losing all of their trades is giving JGX that map control, that wall control. We see Executioner jumping off the wall, and JGX, actually, all of JGX basically is pushing. Linebacker tried for a cheeky back shot there. They didn't notice he was there, but he wasn't able to make anything of it because he was so hurt from his initial push. They just turned around and gunned him down.
And JGX goes into the basement.
This is going to be an absolute slaughter. Once again, JGX up 6-3. No signs of failing fast. Oops. Almost done, frankly.
Naveed's going for the cap. Naveed doesn't see the Warhawk, though. Oh, but he now does, as Data most likely called it out. So Odinger's not long for this.
Now that the Phoenix Hawk is coming behind Odinger in the Warhawk, it's going to be brutal. The Warhawk's low on health. Very, very, very preciously low on health. And he's getting pushed by a Nitro. And that's it. He goes down. Phoenix Hawk in weapons range. And it's just going to be the Commando and the battered Executioner.
Pi went to fight in the basement.
The Executioner doesn't even... I think he just got halved, that Executioner. And then he shoots the wall. What is... Is he suiciding? Yeah, he's suiciding, it looks like. In any case...
Naveed's coming in to help Kraz with the kill.
It is basically a slaughter at this point. There you go. He does get a good burn in the Phoenix Hawk, but that's it.
Kraz comes in with the kill.
It's just Pi in the Commando, 27%. Not long for this world. Another very substantial victory for JGX. Oops. Oops is doing this thing where they push their faster elements way too far ahead of their slower ones. Way, way, way too far ahead of the slower ones. Having the AFK Commando, of course, that was one of their fast elements. Didn't help. They should have probably called a redrop on that one, or at least a hold.
I was very surprised because the time limit is 1 minute to call out any bugs or any DCs, right?
30 seconds.
Oh.
30 seconds to a minute. In any case, he was AFK in those seconds, so they could have done that. And it's a very convincing win for JGX. Very well done.
Let's get these stats
to look at the damages, very even, again, damages for JGX. Meeman or Conlord in that Executioner, 660 damage, matching the very best of JGX's damage output, but the rest of the team unable to keep up. The linebacker with that fat alpha, only getting like 2 alphas worth of damage. Texan in that Vulcan, sub 100 damage. Firestarter, barely sub 100 damage. And everyone else, basically, Commando, 134. Warhawk, 75 damage. That is not what you want to see.
He was the second to last mech.
Your assault mech. You do never want to see your assault mech doing 75 damage in a match. That is basically 1 alpha.
He was the second to last mech to die, right?
You're correct, but they were trading at a disadvantage. So lower damages can be expected because they're trading 4 versus 3, but not that low damage. That player needs to reconsider his mech choice significantly. Jiffy in that Executioner, 679 damage, doing work as always with the Executioner. Very powerful mech. The rest of JGX following. Close behind, again, even damage spread, and it's a wash, unfortunately. Like, Meme or Conlord in that Executioner was the only one who was actually able to keep up with JGX in trades. The rest of his team, again, I'm not sure how a Warhawk manages 75 damage. He had 5 large pulse. Each large pulse does 13 damage. That's barely more than a single alpha out of his deck. I would very much reconsider my choices if I was that player, unfortunately, in that Warhawk. You never want to see your assault mechs doing that little damage.
Yeah.
Ever, ever, ever.
And as we move on to our next map, Alpine Peaks, I believe. Yep, that is it. That is... Ooh. If Oops wants to run the same quick NSR strat again, Alpine may be the toughest one for them. As everybody knows, Alpine is currently the longest range map in the game. And... Ooh, I hope to see a trading strat from Oops here. I'm a bit worried to see how the Brawl Rush will work. I mean, a 4-man Wolfpack still is very strong on Alpine with your 2 lights and two mediums. However, I don't think there's any way you could make an assault rush work on this map. Short of, I guess, the Skokomish.
To be honest, at this point, Oops is down 3. They've already lost the series, but still winning any matches they can is important. So, I mean, given how weak their performance was last match, I would say exceedingly weak. And even River City, frankly, their performance was exceedingly weak. They need to pull something out. If they can push on this map, it might be in their best interest to try it. Maybe Lerms, but JGX has probably thought of all of this. Alpine is a fairly straightforward map with extremely wide angles of approach all around. Very easy to scout, especially from spawn to spawn.
Yep, and so let's see. Let me pull up the map strat.
But the thing is, if Oops does try and push, and they do this delayed push again, like they've done this all 3 games, they always have elements of their push completely out of sync with the rest of the force. It's almost as if their push is not talking to the rest of the team. It's almost like a comms issue that you can literally like see it happening in real time. It's very unfortunate. And the traders clearly not communicating very much to the other mechs they are pushed against the wall. Again, with that Warhawk 75 damage, it's unfathomable, impossible, should never happen.
It's been a rough time all around.
And Alpine is going to be an even more brutal map, as JGX is traditionally a relatively all-rounded team, but they traditionally have at least 1 or 2 powerful traders they try and lock down angles with. I say traditionally, of course, traditions are meant to be broken, but this is a map, to put it bluntly, that favors JGX.
Indeed.
So Oops should probably come up with something very drastic if they can.
If Oops plans on doing a push with the map strat up, the only 2 routes they can take is these 2 channels down the map in the center. Where's the grid? There's the grid. And JGX just has so many spots to set up from. I'm not really sure if what the final verdict is on Team 1 or Team 2 being the stronger side, but JGX with all their spots to set up on the L5 hill, J6, J8, they can put a mech on top of the mountain itself, like. JGX might just be a little too spread out this match for a push strat to fully work. And Oops is locked. We are now... Oops is going full Alpha Bravo.
They're locked at 440 tons. Relatively heavy. They may not be attempting a push.
I believe that's max tonnage.
I believe so.
No, it's not. Max tonnage is 470, I believe.
470. So they're actually significantly under max tonnage then.
Yes, because this is the map with 1 light and then 2 of every other class.
Okay.
So, but the big thing there is, if they're Alpha Bravo, that means they're foregoing Epsi Theta Sigma, and they plan on just either taking Gamma or taking the H-line hill. I want to say it's called Hamburger Hill or something like that. It's not very often you see teams do that. In fact, I'd say it's fairly uncommon to see teams go for this side of the map from Team 1.
We shall see as they ready up here. Oops, again, significantly under tons. We'll see what JGX does too. If I were these teams, again, if I were Oops, I would be looking to mix it up at this point, because they've kind of done the same thing 3 matches in a row. I'd be looking to try for any sort of mix up at this point. The biggest thing, again, is their comms discipline, their push discipline. They need to fix that fast if they want to take any games off of JGX. JGX sitting high and dry. I mean, the first match was very close. They got caught out. They got surprised. But the last 2 matches,
JGX has been prepared.
Oops just kind of fed them piecemeal, to be honest. Either losing in the mech lab, losing with push coordination, etc. Very brutal stuff.
And now
Yes,
after that
almost
first
ready
match,
here.
yep. And now after that first match, JGX has sort of been prepared. They have a sense and they know what's coming. And it's evident in the fact that these two that on HBG and on River, they've just been sitting in the back, waiting for Oops to come to them, as they know they will.
All right, as we go in the lobby, JGX launches at 435 tons, very similar to Oops.
That is surprising because that's 35 tons under max. That's 35 tons under max for JGX, 30 tons under max for
Alpine
Oops.
is a very cap-centric map. It's like HPG, where it's very easy to lock down large swaths of the map from singular positions, or many positions for that matter, but it's also, like Grim, a very massive map. Caps will probably be important, and I anticipate, as we go into this match here, both teams will bring probably fast and or cap-centric mechs to a large degree. As we load into this match, JGX is coming in with a Summoner Pride, Phoenix Hawk 2, Flea 20, Black Lantern, Belinarius, Corsair 7A, Stalker 5S, and Hellbringer Virago. So like I was saying earlier, they have that trading linchpin. The Corsair for the AMS, the Black Lantern has the AMS too. All of their mechs appear to have AMS actually, so they're ready for Lerm shenanigans, predicting Lerm shenanigans from Oops.
Oops running
with Fast Wolfpack and Heavy Trade.
Yep, and then Oops running the Marauder 2C, Linebacker H, Timberwolf C, Firestarter A, Executioner C, Vulcan 5T, and Phoenix Hawk 1K.
So they're taking full laser bomb. So they may be planning some sort of a push here. If we look at their mechs, laser bomb, Marauder,
Laser bomb and Executioner.
Laser bomb and Executioner. Everything is laser bomb. And as we see, Oops is very fast pushing this main hill that you were saying people generally don't go to. They are, in fact, going to it. Oops's assaults are capping. They're a bit separated, though. JGX probably doesn't realize what's happening at this point in time. I don't think they scouted Oops's push. It's a very fast push up that hill. They probably just see the assaults at this point. But JGX up 2 caps at this point. Kind of, Oops, by doing this, is kind of ceding map control. And if we look, Oops is on the top of the hill right now.
Are they waiting for their Timberwolf
right now? We see JGX's trading mechs clustered basically together. They might be expecting some sort of push. Probably are at this point because they haven't really seen anything. Generally, you see mechs and you see their positions fast on this map. And if you don't, you expect something's up. And they do see something's up. They saw the push from Oops. JGX's EO larges were looking all around. And now all of their traders are aware. They know what Oops is doing. The cat is out of the bag. Oops has to push into them now with their superior DPS and alpha without getting burned down by EO larges. Except in the Firestarter, or Texan Scrublord in the Firestarter, kind of running out in the open. Are they just going to run these guys down in the open? That's extremely dangerous.
And Texan's legs.
Texan is getting legged very fast. His leg is open. He's almost legged. They're pushing JGX in the open. Absolutely brutal stuff.
And Tex is almost legged.
Mechs, if we see, are coming in, but it looks like they're a little too far behind still. And JGX is largely kind of hiding from their latest development mechs for the most part because they're pushing from 2 different angles, so JGX just isolating the angles extremely well. Defenseless in the linebacker down to 60%. Vulcan hurt. You said the Firestarter's leg. This is not looking good. However, Grolsch in that Stalker down to 60%.
Grolsch gets halved.
He just got halved. He's almost down. The thing about Oops is that they are kind of in range.
Texan is legged by an airstrike, and that is a huge loss as their Firestarter.
Kind of running in the open. The Timberwolf. How did the Timberwolf die? Who knows? Did he not twist? We're not sure. Oops is already down 3. JGX not lost a single mech. They are about to lose 2 from the looks of them. Data in the Corsair and Grolsch and that Stalker, but they haven't lost them. Pie in the Pink Stalker down to 54%. He's nearly dead. Oops is basically down to 3 mechs at this point. Absolutely brutal stuff.
Kong shows up and the Executioner and the Marauder have finally arrived.
The Corsair still isn't dead. The Stalker still isn't dead. The Phoenix Hawk from Navid, pretty hurt, still isn't dead. They finally get that Stalker, stepping that Vulcan down to 60%. He is extremely hurt. He's going to drop very shortly at this point. And Data in the Corsair does go down. That's good that they get that. Oops is kind of being in a crossfire. They're an ultimate crossfire at this point. They kind of just pushed into a crossfire. I don't know why they pushed the Laser Bomb mechs that aggressively. Execution does go down. And it's going to be Mimian in that Marauder. The last one he gets have. That's it.
And they pushed in the open, no less. That was...
That open push is brutal. You can't do that. And on top of that, their Laser Bomb mechs, again, they were slow on the response. They should have already been over the hill, crested over Theta already to try and take a... Because when you're pushing in the open like that, you should know that the enemy team is going to be focusing on the mechs that are pushing because they have to. That's the speed. That's the DPS to counter their range. So the Laser Bombers need to predict that and just be pushing, using their armor. They were not doing that. They were all the way behind Theta still when the mechs were running out in the open. Like, I'm not sure their game plan was. It didn't work.
Let's get this map strat up. Yep. Wow. Let's see. Everybody broke 100 in that match. Andy Mack getting 112 in the Timberwolf. Diff getting 172 in his linebacker. Texan 196 in the Firestarter. Pi getting...
I'm not sure that Timberwolf died so fast. It looked like he was again pushing the open. It looked like he's pushing the open versus like 2 of JGX traders, and he just got cored out. Very unfortunate stuff in a Timberwolf. A mech that's very fast, very maneuverable, very tanky.
In fact, the Timberwolf has seen a resurgence due to the fact that now that it can twist damage, it can spread everything due to the mech's geometry, but it did not save him here. Not a lot of super high damage. The highest in the match going to Dargor and the Virago with 549. I'm going to pull up the map strat as well. There we go. So, Oops started off with a very strange movement where they went up to the I-9 hill and then just sort of sat there for a very long time as they waited for Andy Mech to return. And then they ran down into J9.
They shouldn't have stopped. Like, with their deck, they should have had the foresight to realize, or at least maybe their assaults should have been more proactive in scouting what their general deck comps is. You don't have to know exactly. But if you see a bunch of ER larges, it's fairly safe to assume they have ER larges, and they shouldn't have stagnated up there. That gives time JJX to set up. That gave them time to ball up, give them time to start looking around, give them time to realize, hey, guess what, guys? We only see 2 mechs.
Yep.
And gave them time. You gotta go, go, go. You don't have the time.
And
Oops. Every single match today, Oops seems to think they have time when they're pushing. They do not have time. They don't understand this. When you push, you have to do it hard and fast and catch them out. The first match on Grim was pretty good. They caught JGX out pretty damn well, all things considered. But the rest of the matches, they're slow. They're one element or another. AFK Commando, Biggs being too slow. They're slow, slow, slow. They do not have the time. And I hope to see in this Tourmaline match, they realize that and understand, hey, we don't have the time. We need to push. If we're pushing, we need to push it fast and into them. And I hope to see that improvement. JGX playing fantastically, as per usual, receiving these pushes very well. Except for the Grim match. The Grim match was pretty hairy, but then I would say they more got surprised than they received it poorly.
Yes.
So that's not really a watermark.
And timing was one big issue, but
like
the real
for City, like the DACA all on the spaceport right there, that was perfect. Perfect. Just completely crushed Oops in the mech lab. Very good stuff. Generally, they're just taking better decks, I feel like, JGX today.
I believe the one point where Oops truly failed in this Alpine match was once they got to J9 and they were spotted, instead of moving back to find a more... to find an angle with better cover to approach, they just charged right through the open ground here and were just gunned down as all of their brawl mechs tried to close against an ER large team.
Right. You would have thought they would have tried to maybe do something like this, maybe make some sort of a split push, like 3 people go around and 1 takes the aggro or something, because Texan the Firestarter, despite being focused by all of them, he did make it pretty far. So if you have just that Firestarter taking the damage and everybody else perhaps pushing around, that might have worked really well. And again, they're bigs. They kind of meandered their way from Bravo on Epsilon and then kind of onto this hill, and they kind of sat there as Oops pushing on the open. You can't do that because JGX is, they're extremely smart, as all of these teams are, and they're going to realize, hey, listen, we have these guys crossfiring us from over here, duck down, shoot the other guys.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened.
And I believe JGX
needed to use the Bigs to scout. They need to use the Bigs to bleed some armor, to push up, take pressure off of their push elements.
I believe JGX had actually swapped up their targeting a little, because once Texan got here, they couldn't take his legs, so they all just completely ignored him and just gunned down Andy Mech, who was trying to trade from about here. Yeah, he was trying to trade from here in K8 or about here, and he just got immediately obliterated because it was one Timberwolf against 4 ER large mechs. And there's just not much you can do there at that point. Tourmaline's going to be interesting. The
new Tourmaline spawns have changed the way the map plays a fairly substantial degree. I would actually say, rather than the old trade, maybe push focused strats to a degree, it's a lot harder to push on the new Tourmaline with like a slow, your classic CSJ DACA push. That was a very classic strat a lot of teams did. Worked for some, not for others. That isn't a thing anymore, right? And this map is a lot more.
It's a lot more scouting
centric. It's a lot scouting centric. It's a lot maybe more tactical. That might be the best way to put it. A lot more tactical. But a lot of these teams, the map was just changed like a week or two ago. So have these teams had the time to acclimate to the map changes? We don't know. We'll see as we get into the match here in a little bit here. But what we do know is that a lot of the old positions are untenable or completely unviable on this new Tourmaline. So we'll see how that plays out. But Oops has basically done a hard push, almost like an NSR in all of these drops. But
Team 2 does have a slight advantage on a push deck for Tourmaline, as you can come across through, I believe this is called Castle, and then work your way through there, and you have slight cover. However, Team 1 has a lot of map control overwatch spots, as they can spawn a mech up onto the Echo 3 hill here. There are 3 spires here to take control of. And as much as I want to as much as I want to say this is a cap heavy map, caps haven't really been a thing tonight, as Oops has just been trying to force the push every single match.
And if they do it again, that may be the same situation. But yeah. At this point, they need to do something different. They've basically done the same thing 4 games. It almost worked 1. It has completely, utterly failed for multiple reasons and all the rest. But they need to put in, they need to do something differently here if they want to take a drop off of JGX. At this point, JGX is largely accustomed to what they're doing. They basically have the psyche of their whole strat, of their whole game plan understood at this point. So they need to mix it up. And looks like JGX is locked in here at 420.
Yep, and this is the only tonnage limited drop. So 420 is the top each team can do.
At 420.
And let's see, JGX is running 4 mechs Bravo, 2 mechs Alpha, and 1 mech Charlie. So it seems that the arrows I had put on the map for Team 1 will be somewhat accurate of what JGX is doing. That 1 mech in Charlie Lance is most likely going to hold up Echo 3 here and just do extreme range overwatch. And Oops is now getting into place. Oops is going full Charlie Bravo. So these are the 2 spawns that they're going for. And Oops is locked. We are ready to enter drop 5.
And they are both 220 tons. Both teams are ready. We're going in, or 420 tons, excuse me. the new Tourmaline is even a bit new for everybody, right? At this point, it was only brought in the game. I said 2 weeks ago. I think it was only 1 week ago at this point that it was brought in the game. So it's very new for everybody still, including myself. I don't have a lot of prior to back on. So this will be an interesting drop to see for me as well, because these spawns are dramatically different from what we are used to. As we load into this match here,
Who's Pure Sense?
all right. For JGX, we have a Vapor Eagle 2. Interesting choice on that one. Going to be some sort of DACA. Firestarter A, Phoenix Hawk 1K, Madcat 2B, Flea 17, Nightwidow 2A, and a Night Gyre D.
And Oops is bringing the Timberwolf C again, Marauder 2C, Commando, Firestarter, Vulcan, Executioner, Linebacker. So a very similar deck to what they brought on Alpine, and it's all Laser Vomit again.
Right, and we see JGX, they have the DACA, AC10 PPC Nitro. We have AC5 PPC Madcat. And we have the 6 Ultra 2 Annie. So very similar to what they brought on River.
Oops,
actually,
with the full
deck
Laser
is
Vomit.
basically identical.
Oops with the full Laser Vomit. They need to trade.
They like their lasers, but they need to actually utilize them properly. It looks like they're, again, doing a very heavy push. Balled up in that Death Valley area, coming up with the Timberwolf, with the Executioner, with the Marauder, with the Linebacker.
You have Sep
basically
and Texan.
won the same X for this whole tournament.
You have Sep and Texan. Instead of going for caps, they are instead jumping up on the Spire in order to get that scouting. But instead, Oops is running their 4 bigs beneath the Spire is where they're going to make their move. And if Dario doesn't poke,
it's scouted.
Yep.
They have Dario scouted everything. JGX now knows that is where their weight is, and the JGX has the Vapor Eagle as well. With on the side there.
However,
with the 2 AC10s PPC, again, the same thing as River City.
And
however, the Vapor Eagle is kind of caught out. He's actually caught out. He's down to 1 PPC. Incredible with the Oops push. Apparently, they did not scout it well enough. The Vapor Eagle is down. That is a free pick for Oops. That is exactly what Oops wants at this point in time. They need to keep up the momentum.
The Oops lights are fully engaged now, though. It is a 3-man wolf pack.
They engage too early again because the bigs aren't ready to engage right now. They're just coming around the corner. They've engaged too early. Once again, they're now pushing. They're actually kind of stalling from the looks of things. They're stalling, getting farmed by JGX's Mass DACA. Marauder 2C is almost down on 100% column 1. Sep and the Firestarter, their distraction just go down. They're going to focus that Marauder. He's going to die very fast, 41%. They could burn these mechs down potentially, but JGX's DPS, their light pack, the Firestarter, Phoenix Hawk, and the Flea are all coming in, and you've got the Nitro coming in. Grosh and Annie, though, he's almost dead. Annie Mech and the Timber almost dead, along with Collingwood again, and that Marauder almost, he is dead, actually. Executioner does die at 60%, unfortunate. And
Annie Mech goes down.
It's a slaughter again. It's an absolute slaughter. They're going to lose everything once again. They pushed in exactly the same terrible fashion as before, and they lose in exactly the same terrible way. JGX is up 6 mechs, and that is it! Incredible!
Wow.
It seems Oops has no other strat but to mindlessly walk into the enemy team. Their push isn't even coordinated. They caught out the Veagle, but if anything, that's mispositioning from the Veagle rather than something good from Oops, as we see looking at the damages here. The Nitro from Pasha, that AC10 PPC Nitro, and the AC5 PPC Madcat. 1,200 damage between the two of them. It's just a slaughter. You can't take these kinds of mechs and play the way these guys are playing. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Dargor and the Veagle just get caught out. He was only able to shoot once, but I mean, the rest of the damages on JGX are very well spread around because there's a lot of damage to farm. Meanwhile, on Oops, they just didn't get anything done because there was nothing to get done. Very unfortunate stuff.
I was surprised more than anything else. Dargor got 35 damage, caught out alone.
If anything, that was a misposition from, it looks like the teams are done. They're over. They're all leaving now.
Let me see if I can get these guys here for an interview.
I don't think we need an interview. Well, I guess you can ask them for an interview. That's up to them. It just crazy, to be honest. It's very surprising to me. JGX has received these pushes well every single time. I mean, shit, there isn't really much more to say. I feel like watching these matches is like watching like an orchestra with like a couple people playing completely out of sync. Very unfortunate.
Oh, hi, Kong. Welcome to the interview. Let's see. Just waiting for Kraz to get in here. I don't want to start it quite yet without Kraz. Or perhaps JGX will send somebody else. Not quite sure. Oh, they are getting Data. Hello, Data.
Hey there.
So that was a surprising turn of events. Even on drop 5, actually had me really surprised. How did you guys feel about it? I'll start with JGX first, and then go with Oops.
Well, we felt that the enemy team wanted to rush, because honestly, if you try to rush even on Alpine Peaks, it means that you want to rush every game. So we just went with AIM-T rush decks mainly, because it was evident that that is what they were going to do. On Alpine, we were expecting some Lerms, a push with Lerms and Brawlers. But as for Tourmaline, we just put scouts on the flanks to scout where they're coming from, and we just set up to receive. I think that's it.
Yeah, I noticed you guys had the AMS on almost everything. You were anticipating the Lerms.
Yeah. We thought it would make sense if you push on Alpine Peaks to bring Lerms on the assaults, just because, honestly, you would do more damage with LRM's assault than with brawling assaults on that map, if you want to push. Like, you push with Firestarter, Black Lanners, Linebackers, Small Pulse and shit, and when you do that, you lock the assault's approach and Lerm. We were expecting that. Like, something like EMP style in 2018 or even 2019 on Caustic Valley, when EMPs brought some brawling mechs, Flea, Commandos, and then Lerming mechs in the back.
For sure, and I remember very clear, and it's a very it's a strong assumption. Lerms are extremely powerful on Alpine Peaks, especially with the way they were doing, right? Because if you guys hadn't brought AMS on all your mechs, and if Oops had brought LRM assaults when they were making that push in the open there, you guys would have honestly just been free farmed. So it's a very reasonable assumption to bring that AMS, and it doesn't cost you guys much to put an AMS on every mech, and that kind of defeats. It very much, especially that Corsair, very largely defeats the Lerm presence.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So on the first map, I want to ask JGX's perspective on the first map. Were you guys caught out by that Oops push at all? Because it looked like you guys were at least a little bit surprised by the big wide hook from Oops. The two
Grim Plexus, I think I scouted the push first with the Nike because I had a blip on the map, but we had no idea they were coming from there. We had absolutely no idea. In fact, I think, talking for myself, I started fighting at 200 meters with an ER large night gear. So definitely we were not expecting a push from that direction, and we were caught in complete surprise on the first map. That's for sure. I feel like we should have lost that.
Yeah, that was surprising you guys managed to pull it out, but I want to ask now from Oops' perspective, because I think the reason they lost is, first off, they had that LRM Nitro, which is a very dangerous pick, right? Because you guys had Dario in the Flea, basically negating his presence on the battlefield. That'd been maybe like a fast stack of Mad Cat or something, would have had a lot more presence, would have had a lot more power, and Now I want to ask from Oops' perspective, what do you like? It seemed like that push was very delayed, right? You had the Andy and the Timberwolf going way ahead of everybody else. You had yourself and the Nitro basically caught out by the Flea, not really able to do your damage. What was your guys' perspective from that push situation? Because it looked very disorganized to me.
I don't know. I wasn't really thinking.
Okay.
And also, when I get attacked, that doesn't matter because just one mech to one mech, but everyone else was also losing. So then it starts mattering.
That's fair enough. So I want to go on to drop 2 here, and on River City. So from Oops' perspective here, you guys had the really, really aggressive push. What was your strategy behind that aggressive push? Were you aiming to get the pick on Dario's Flea there? Were you like accepting the fact that, okay, we have to go all the way into the enemy's base basically to pick that Flea? And were you accepting that their heavy, your heavy elements were way out of the fight at that point? Was that a risk you guys were willing to take?
Well, we just thought about walking up to Spaceport, but what kind went wrong instead was that we had every big one go from like the same angle up there. We're supposed to have the middle guys go from middle, and me and Mr. Commando attacks from the left side, and whatever that pick at the start, I don't know. I wasn't in the light, so I don't know what's going on there.
Okay, so it seems like it seems like that was a general theme with Oops today. Is you guys are kind of, your communications are very segmented, and based on what you just said there, that it seems to be pretty accurate. The lights weren't really communicating much with the rest of the team.
I mean, they did communicate together, but I don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm on the opposite side of the map. Like, it's not my job at that point to like care what they're doing. They should be thinking for themselves, which they did.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then the interesting thing is, I'm surprised you guys clung to the laser vomit, especially on River City, a traditionally DACA dominated map. Were you guys expecting to run into that much DACA from DGX?
I don't know. We just tried something. We know that we're gonna lose if we're gonna play like traditional trade, because we have like a couple people that have, like, for example, never played comp before and are just used to quick play Nesca. So in a team like that, it's better to just try to NSR instead of playing properly.
And what about from JGX's side? You guys were obviously pretty surprised that Oops pushed so aggressively to pick Dario and the Flea, but it seems like you guys got the better on the damage trades 100%. So they kind of almost played into you guys. Is that kind of what you would say happened? Was there really any surprises other than maybe Dario getting picked in the Flea?
I had no idea what happened with Dario, but we were kind of expecting a push. That's why I took the Kodiak with the eye mounts and utilized the buildings there, basically to shoot from above the buildings. We noticed that there was a mistake on the enemy team when basically the enemy Vulcan pushed up alone, completely desynced by the rest of the entire team, and then there was basically a desync between the light push and the assault push, so we were able to pinpoint first a certain direction and then the other direction. And overall, I think that game was won in the mech lab even before dropping, because if on one side you have only AC-10s to receive a push, and then on the other side enemies try to push you with laser vomits in front of DACAs, like pushing face to face with a laser vomit against the DACA boats, it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And we were expecting that pretty much.
100% agree. Like I mentioned as much in the cast, as soon as I saw it, it's like they're pushing laser vomit right into spaceport, right into your guys' clutches, like in below your, into your optimal range, basically.
Honestly, I was expecting mechs like a linebacker with 6 small pulse and 3 SRM6s, because small pulses now are clan small pulses. They're actually very, very, very cold. Their damage per hit went up a lot by a large margin. I was expecting linebackers if you want to push, because they tank more, they do more DPS, they're faster. I wasn't expecting a Timber laser vomit.
Absolutely. And I mean, you guys being on that side, Oops should have been like, okay, JGX has the spaceport side, because it's well known for many years now that the spaceport side is generally it's a power position on that map. And it's a power position that teams generally would be foolish to not utilize, as you guys clearly utilized it, right? So, I mean,
Mhm.
I genuinely, I very much agree with what you said. They very much lost in the mech lab, and it's very evident on that. What was the next map? Was it HBG? HBG was pretty straightforward, I feel like. Okay, so here's a question for Oops. How come you guys didn't call like a redrop or whatever when your commando was AFK? Because that cost you guys a fair bit, I feel like, having that commando AFK for so long.
We just decided to go because we were already on the wall. No stop. No matter who disconnects.
I
All
feel like
right.
that commando is a pretty powerful element from you guys to have disconnected, but I understand what you're saying. And what happened on the trader side on that match? Because obviously JGX had 4 traders to your guys' 3, but your Warhawk barely even got a single alpha out. What was that all about? Was he having trouble with the trades? Was he just getting hammered? Was he getting caught on the low mounts? Because the Warhawk is pretty low mounts, right? And you have to have a lot of exposure for those large bulls. Like, what was going on there?
Well, I wasn't playing it, so I don't know. You should ask Mr. Oedinger in that case.
So he wasn't really communicating to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we just focus on our own gameplay.
Okay. So team cohesion wasn't really so great. You guys are all kind of playing as individuals. Meanwhile, we see that JGX is clearly playing as a team, and that's a big deal, I think. And all these drops, they're clearly playing as a well coordinated team. And if you say you guys are playing as individual units, that's a big disadvantage, I guess, right? I guess what about from JGX's perspective? I mean, that seemed pretty textbook to me there on HBG. Would you say that was the case?
On HPG, again, we were originally thinking to bring something different, but then given how the previous matches had gone, we just decided to switch to more dark PPC style things. And at some point, we noticed that there was basically a Warhawk alone in the open, and Pasha and myself started trading hard against the Warhawk. And there was a Nightshade with something like 5 large balls that was pretending to use a cover that basically hid him up to his own face, but then left the shoulders above the cover, and we kept just shooting the shoulders. And with stuff like this, basically those mechs lost on trades, and they had to hide somewhere else, and we had map control. Also, I think our executioner was doing pretty well against their executioner or some mechs nearby. As for the light fight, I don't know what happened, but trade-wise, I think they were trying to trade with large pulses at something like 800, 850 meters against PPCs and AC5s, and of course they were outranged. And also, like, if you all peek from one single spot against a full line that is on the walls, you're going to get PPC'd and shot with autocannons from all over the place. And that's pretty much what
And they were down a trader too, right? Because they had that linebacker instead of the other trader that you guys had. So they were at a disadvantage to begin with.
They were, and they kept doing it, and that's the problem, is that they kept trading like 3v4 with weapons that weren't even suited for that kind of role.
Exactly. And we saw that with the Warhawk there, barely even getting a single alpha. Very unfortunate
They
stuff.
have. What did they have on the Warhawk? I don't
It
remember.
was 5 large pulls. So
I think 5 large pulls on the night gear too. Yeah, he was out of range by a large margin.
Yeah, that would make sense then. Now for what's the next map?
Alpine.
So I have a big question for Oops on this one. What made you guys want to run in the open versus all of JGX's gear largers? Because you guys kind of just funneled down the barrel. You bayonet charged, right? What was the impetus behind that?
You mean the lights?
Your entire light push, yes. You kind of just ran all in the open.
Andy Mech was there as well, I believe.
Yeah, that was a true Oops moment that Andy's there. Like, that was pretty funny actually. Like, laughing our asses off when Andy asks me, do I go with the lights or do I go with you guys? Then I look like to my left, he's already like 800 meters already. But anyway, ignoring that, well, once again, I wasn't with them, so it's not really my problem how they move. We were with Oedinger on the middle hill, waiting for them to attack, and then we attack also.
And then what about the assaults? Because if you relook at the cast, it looks like, at least from our perspective, your assaults were not only out of range, but maybe a little slow, even. Like almost that you guys should have pushed at the same time or even before actually the lights. What was the idea there?
Yeah, maybe like 15 seconds earlier.
Mhm.
Well, we didn't really like try this strat before. We previously had everyone, all 7, go from the light side, but that didn't really work against whoever we tried that on because they just rotated away and kept doing like 1 kilometer farm on us. But anyway, yeah, that we didn't really try the timings with the split but that was like the first time we actually did it now.
So it was kind of very much unpracticed territory. You guys didn't have a lot of coordination, like with the timings and everything. That'd be pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, if we do it again, we will probably definitely go like earlier into the fight with the 2 assaults, or
Yeah.
it should be like 3 mechs, but Mr. Andy was in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, that would have helped a lot having the Timberwolf over there and you guys pushing. That would have been a lot better of a pincer. Now,
Yeah.
I want to ask from JGX's perspective. So, you guys, you end up fairly standard positions, I think we can say. And at what point did you see their push? It's because it's a little hard to tell from the caster's
As
perspective.
soon as I spawned, I turned the mech and I looked their mechs into their spawns, and we know where they were doing. Like 3 seconds from the spawn, my Navid did that. Like 3 or 4 of us, like 3 seconds from the spawn, we saw everything, and we saw what they were doing, and we knew that they were going to do that sort of maneuver. Then we scouted a light, I think, that accidentally showed himself on top of Suicide Hill, and then it reinforced our thought that they were going to do that kind of maneuver. So we knew that that was going to happen.
And I guess from that point, right, it was pretty textbook. Did you guys ever see their bigs moving around until like they were already shooting you guys, or?
No. Their bigs weren't a problem at all because basically
Right.
when their bigs jumped in, the game was already over.
Exactly, their bigs pushed too slow.
Yeah, that's why I said when you do that kind of maneuver, maybe we were expecting lurms because their bigs would have actually lurmed while their smalls were fighting. So they would have taken part to the fight earlier. I remember EMPs multiple times have used on Caustic a mech like a Medcat with 4 LRM-20s and 2 LBX-20s on Caustic Valley, for example. So sometimes when you push, maybe you could try something like that. We were expecting something like that, honestly. We weren't expecting a laser vomit, marauder, and an executioner as pushing mechs at all.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing, of course, I think we can all agree is that their bigs were just really slow on the push. But yeah, no, I mean that was a pretty textbook receival, I think, from you guys for sure. Yeah, the AMS, you are ready for the Lerms. They kind of, I feel like, would you say they very much kind of just fed it to you on a silver platter with the lights just kind of running out in the open against your larges?
No, their maneuver with the lights, honestly, it wasn't. I think it wasn't very convincing because at that range with the R large, especially the R large Hellbringer on top of the mountain, it's easy to zip the legs of the lights at that distance. So I don't know. It didn't feel like a good way to approach.
For sure. And I think if you rewatch the cast, you'll definitely be able to see the bird's eye and agree with that. Now for Tourmaline. So the biggest thing I have to ask with JGX, what happened to your Vapor Eagle? Because it seems like you guys had a pretty good strat overall, pretty good deck. You're poised to counter them pretty heavily because, you know, they kind of didn't really change their strata. And then the Vapor Eagle was very, very far forward. What happened with him? Was that in disposition or was that intentional?
The Vapor Eagle was supposed to stay in that position. I don't know because I didn't talk with Dargor. I don't know what happened to him. He just scouted. He scouted their push straight away, and we were expecting them on our left, and we were prepared to actually shoot at them from our left. And basically, I think Dargor kind of saved the entire team in that moment because he scouted the push on the right. Then I have no idea why he didn't manage to back up to the rest of. And instead, I don't know why he stood there. I don't even know if he had a chance to come back to the rest of the team, because he scouted that push and then he died instantly. For sure, he was supposed to be there. I don't know why he didn't manage to come back to the rest of the team.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
What did you see, Bowser, from the spectator, from the the spectator camera?
So from our perspective, it looked like he was pushed very far. It looked like him and Dario scouted the push at the same time, but Oops is already just full train going. And where he was like 600 meters from the hard cover. So basically, Oops kind of barreled over with 4 mechs all into him at 600 meters laser vomit. So from my perspective, it looks like he was caught out, to be honest. Because at that point, when they barrel over with 4 mechs, you're done. You're not getting out of there. And that was very much what happened. He barely had enough time to turn around. So it almost looked like, again, he was either too far up or caught out without proper scouting of the push.
We didn't expect that push at all. We were not expecting that at all. The push from that side. We had no idea they were coming that side.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't think that push is very easy to expect either, especially with the laser vomit. Very, I think, confusing on Tourmaline. Traditionally, Daka and range dominated map. As you guys showed, basically, they kind of just walked over CSJ into a farming line, right? That's kind of basically what happened.
They used the laser vomit to push against the Daka boats. Like, we were expecting them to bring Daka boats, honestly. Like, at least a Medcat with Daka, some Annihilator with Daka, even something faster with Daka. I don't know, a Kodiak with a max engine, just 4 AC-10s. Or in general, more Daka. Instead, we had the Daka, they had the laser vomit, and they charged in the open with laser vomit against Dakas. And, of course, that turned into our favor.
Kind of like repeating what they did on River City to a very large degree. So from Oops, I have a very pressing question. How come you guys only really use laser vomit for the series? You never really use Daka. You never really use range. What was up with the laser vomit pick this series?
Because you can make the mechs go really fast.
Okay. So do you not think that trading out maybe like 10 kilometers an hour of speed for a Daka, like a Daka Madcat, do you not think that would have been worth it, or you needed the speed at all costs? You feel like?
Well, we thought that like having like overwhelming speed, let's call it that, would like allow us to attack the enemy before they're in their comfortable positions, basically. I think on the first game it kinda worked, as Mr. Data mentioned. Like, he started fighting at 200 meters, but after that it like the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, especially because you guys kind of did the same strat all 4 drops. All 5 drops, excuse me. What about if you had maybe mixed it up with Brawl Max? Was that something you guys considered, or was it just like full laser vomit all the way because it's more comfortable to cast that range?
I think like the Brawl Mechs will be dead before they get to, like, if they would be like SRMs, they will be dead before they even get to shoot it. So we put like something with range on the mechs instead.
Interesting. I think that's about it. I very, very well played, obviously, to JGX. Very well done. That first drop was very dicey, but the rest were, in my opinion, very convincing. I think they only got like 1 mech off of you guys each drop afterwards. So very convincing, very well done. Oops. It was well, it was an interesting strat for sure. You tried. The first drop was very good, but I think hopefully you guys realize what to work on. And I think that's about it from me. Do you have anything to say?
I do not. Let's see. Who's Oops playing next week? I believe it's Oops against Omen, if memory serves.
Now we already got seal clubbed by them. It's
I don't know.
RJF next.
Okay. Well then, I will look forward to that match and to JGX drops down the road.
Thank you very much, guys, for the interview.
All right. Thanks you for casting.
All right. Take it easy, folks, and thank you to everyone who watched.
Thank you. Bye, guys.